Oh, hello and welcome to the Small Triumph Sports Library and Archives channel. I am crawling out from under the metaphorical mountain of essays that I'm currently grading temporarily in order to produce this short video. I do realize that in the last video I posted, I stated that I thought the next video I would produce and post would be the one I've been working on the Triumph Spitfire and GT6 fuse box. When I said that, of course, I meant the Lucas 8FJ fuse box, this style fuse box. This is a reproduction here, but this style fuse box that was used for most of the Spitfire run, as well as the entirety of the GT6 run, or more accurately, I should say, a version of that 8FJ fuse box was used during most of the Spitfire run and the entirety of the GT6 run. However, I'm still doing some research and some other work to try to make that video as good as I can make it. And so I'm not ready with that material yet. Recently, I acquired some of these Lucas Girling equipment and service parts catalogs for standard Triumph cars. I received a stack of those. I've been going through them to try to track down some relatively minor, finer points in the video that I want to make on the fuse box. I haven't come up with any astonishing revelations from that research yet, but I'm still working on it. So I still have some work to do to get that fuse box video ready, and in the interim, I thought I would put together a short video with several matters that may be of interest to some of you. So here goes. So first and foremost, I would like to provide an update on a couple of personal projects that I've discussed on the channel this year. The first of these is the Spitfire electricery problem that I addressed and discussed in some detail back in episode 8 in June. What happened in that, the short version of the story, I was leaving the gas station. All the power in the car seemed to drop out temporarily. I think I messed with the key. It came back, drove the car home, and everything was fine on that drive. When I got it back into the driveway by messing with the key, I seemed to be able to get the power to drop a little bit. So I immediately suspected that something was going on with the ignition switch. But when I went to investigate it, the car behaved normally, and it has behaved normally ever since. So that problem occurred on a single day. It was May 24th. I know it was May 24th because I write down all of my gas stops. And so it was May 24th, and it has not happened again since. I've had the car out quite a few times for drives of 30 minutes to a little over an hour, and the car has behaved flawlessly ever since. As I've said before in a previous brief update, I don't think the car's fixed itself. There's probably something failing, but all I can do at this point is keep driving it and seeing how it does. It does make me a bit nervous, as you might imagine, but hopefully, hopefully when something goes wrong, it'll be in a place where it won't be dangerous, and I'll be able to investigate it properly. Right now, I can't figure anything out because the car is not malfunctioning in any way, shape, or form. So I'll discuss that again when it comes up again, I suppose. So the other thing I want to update you on briefly is my GT6 engine. As I reported in my second summer work update for my GT6 project, my GT6 engine is frozen. It is far more frozen than I would have guessed. I ended up pulling it off the engine stand because the engine stand was flexing a great deal as I was trying to get the crank turning over, and it was scaring me. So I decided to go ahead and put the engine, transmission, drive shaft or propeller shaft, all that back in the car and try to use the car to get the engine turning. That did not work. The car is very light. It's completely empty. It's missing body panels. It just does not have really the mass. When I put it in gear and try to roll it, it doesn't work. I mean, another big problem is the fact that the tires on the car are ancient and not very grippy. So they have a marked tendency to want to just slide. And so that ended up not working. So I talked with my father, and he and I decided to build a lever that we could bolt on to the front of the engine in order to try to work the engine in both directions to free it up. So while I started work, my dad actually built this lever. You can see right here. And I purchased a spare pulley to put on the front of the engine to use with the lever. I do not want to damage this spare pulley. The pulley I got, actually, I don't know if it's a later GT6 Plus pulley or a Mark III pulley, but the pulley is actually larger than the one that came off my car, so it's bigger than my original pulley. But since we are levering on it, I figured I would rather use a spare than the original one that I intend to put back on the engine. So we built this lever. We do have leverage now. We have purchase. Unfortunately, it still doesn't want to move. The pulley rotates back and forth maybe a quarter of an inch, and hopefully it's not simply rocking on the Woodruff key or something like that, but the engine still does not want to budge. The next step, of course, is to apply heat, which is something I've been intending to do for a while. I just have not had the time to carve out to do it. So the bores are still soaking in oil, Marvel Mystery Oil right now. Been soaking for a long time. It hasn't done a lot of good, but we'll get that out, mopped up as best we can. And we're going to start applying some serious heat and trying to lever on it that way. Again, the engine doesn't look terrible. I've looked at the engine. I've explored the bottom. It's astonishing to me that it's as stuck as it is, and I have high hopes that we'll get it freed up at some point, but it is a work in progress. And right now, the big problem is time. I just don't have time right now to work on it, and I'll be very busy with work probably until we get into December. So I'll only be able to work on the car here and there. So that's where that stands right now. So as we got to the end of summer and I had been unsuccessful at getting my engine to turn over and was starting to think about new strategies for getting the engine moving, I ended up kind of stopping and handling some smaller jobs that I could in the time that I had to work on the car. So I was doing things like pulling out the brake and clutch master cylinder brackets and sandblasting and cleaning them and preparing them for paint, which meant I was spending time rummaging through the various parts boxes that are in the garage. And one day I ended up looking over and I saw the spare wheel for the GT6. This is the wheel that was in the boot of the car when I got it. And for the first time, I really saw that wheel and especially that tire. And when I looked at it, I was like, you know what? That could be an original tire. I knew what the original tires looked like just from looking at numerous period images. And so I suspected that it might be a tire that was original to the car. So here it is. This is the tire that I was looking at in the garage. And if you looked at any period documents that feature U.S. cars, you're going to see a similar looking tire. So this is the 1969 US sales brochure, and you can see the wheel there. You can see the tire has that white thin pinstripe on it. And here's a close-up of the wheel from that brochure, and you can see exactly what the tire looks like there. And another close-up from the brochure, this time the same tire on a wire wheel. The 1970 US sales brochure, you can see the tire on that wheel, again with that thin white stripe around it. And here is a close-up of the wheel from the 1970 US sales brochure. And again, you can see the thin white stripe. So I'm looking at this spare wheel in the garage, and I'm starting to think that maybe the tire on that wheel is original to the car. So I start to look at it carefully. I cleaned it up. Of course, the tire is ancient, so it's old. No sane person would use it just because it's old, but also that tire was chewed up. It looks like somebody drove the car way out of alignment, so the entire inner part of that tire is really chewed up, which is in itself rather strange. The tires that are on the car that were being used are not, don't have that kind of wear pattern, but it looks like somebody at some point drove the car way out of alignment. But nevertheless, I cleaned up the wheel and the tire, and I started to look for date code. And I think what's important right here is the LP at the beginning. So I found a source that provides information on Goodyear polyglass date coding. The source is actually geared more toward American muscle car owners slash readers, but I think it's useful for our purposes as well. It lists a number of different ways in which date codes were presented on tires of this era. Of course, back then they weren't using today's standardized date coding, so each manufacturer kind of did its own thing. And so that's important to note. So I think what's important for understanding the date of this tire is the LP at the beginning. And I'm no expert on this, by the way. This is based on some cursory research, but what I found made sense. So I'm going to present it. So we have LP. L, that first letter, is representing 1968, based on the letter year codes that were used in this period. And again, it's LP, so P would represent the month. And in this date coding system, for the month code from 1966 forward, P represented July. So that means that that tire, that spare tire that I have, was manufactured in July of 1968. As I have mentioned before, my car was completed, the build was completed in early August of 1968. So July 1968 manufacture for the tire that was original to the car seems about right to me. I'll also note that the tire says made in Great Britain on it. But as I note that, I must emphasize that these tires were made specifically for the US market. So GT6s in the UK got different tires on them. They are US specific tires. I think, although I didn't take a picture of it, I think that there's actually something stamped on the tire about them being US only tires. I interrupt the original recording for an instant upgrade. I was able to zoom in on one of my photos of the tire in order to show you the for USA only labeling on the tire. There it is. regardless, I mean, the tire is ancient. It's obviously not usable or anything like that, but I think it's great to have as an artifact because it does seem to be, all signs point to the fact that this is one of the tires that originally came with the car. The other four tires, the tires that are actually on the wheels that are on the car right now, are definitely not original. I think two of them are Sears branded. So those are not original tires, but somehow, some way, one of the original tires seems to have survived as a spare in the car. And, you know, I think that's, again, interesting, an interesting artifact that I will hang on to. The last thing I wanted to address is that I was able to make it to the car show at the VTR Nationals, or the North American Triumph Challenge, as I believe it is properly known. It was in Dillard, Georgia this year. It's the program here. I have been a member of the Vintage Triumph Register since I think 1993 or 1994, back when I was a college kid. And I've not been to a full national event. Time and money have been obstacles. But I can recall in 1994, I managed around my part time work schedule to get up to Asheville for the car show in the 1994 National Convention. And then in 1999, when the VTR National Convention was held in Portland, Maine, I managed to coordinate a visit to my brother's place. He and his wife were living in New Hampshire, and I coordinated that so that I could drop in on the car show in Portland, Maine in 1999. So I did those two shows in the past. This year, I really wanted to make it. Dillard, Georgia is about 3.5 hours from where I live. And so, if I could carve out the time, I wanted to make the day trip up to look at some cars and mix and mingle a little bit. And I knew it would be kind of a whirlwind experience, but it was something that I wanted to do. And in fact, one of my club friends, who's also restoring a GT6, said he wanted to come along if I was going. And so he ended up going with me, and we had a nice kind of whirlwind Triumph day. First and foremost, I know how much work goes into doing events like these, and I, only experienced a small part of the VTR National Convention, but I am really, really grateful for all the people who put work in to make an event like that go. And everybody I talked with was having a great time and was talking about how fantastic the entire experience was. And I hope all the folks involved are patting themselves on the back for doing a great job. Dillard House and the location was absolutely fantastic. I did not get to kind of mix and mingle as much as I wanted to. It was a short day. It was an intense day. But got there, looked at a lot of cars, met some people I had previously only communicated with online before. I missed out on talking with some folks that I really wanted to, which is unfortunate, but time was fairly short. I did stop by some of the booths there, so I got a few things from Tammy Frank's Designs, some nice Triumph coasters. I highly recommend checking out her stuff. She has a lot of cool Triumph themed materials and was delightful. She was very nice. Got to speak with her briefly. Really has a lot of cool Triumph stuff. If you like little things like coasters and keychains and things like that, so that was cool. Got to meet Ted Schumacher of TSI Automotive, and I bought a trinket off him, and that was cool. Chris from Rimmer Brothers was there. Had a little booth, little vendor booth, and it was nice meeting him. It was a beautiful day, and I'm forgetting people, and I'm going to regret it at some point. So I should probably stop rambling. But it was a beautiful day. Just some of the quick images that I took. This is the setup here. Cars entering the field in the morning, and just lots of cars, 250 plus cars was what I was hearing. And certainly there were a lot of cars out on the field. And I enjoyed wandering around and looking at all of them, not just the Spitfires and GT6s, but all of them all around. Did, however, spend most of my time talking with owners of some beautifully restored GT6s. These are two of them, and this is yet a different one right here. Really enjoyed meeting the owners of those cars. There were just lots of cool cars on the field, and of course the entire show was dedicated to, the theme of the show was Micheloti's designs, and apparently some of his original drawings here were on loan to VTR for the show. And we all know, how important Michelotti is in Triumph history, the designer of the Spitfire and the GT6, of course, which are the two cars that I focus on here on this channel. So it was a really delightful time. Also, just to prove I was there, I took a quick selfie with my friend Tim, and it was a lot of fun. So I just wanted to provide a kind of a brief update on that. One thing I did want to note, since I mentioned Chris at Rimmer Brothers, that might be of general interest to you out there, is Rimmer Brothers has stepped up and reproduced some important parts for early GT6s that were previously unavailable. I think most of those parts became available just this year. But one thing in particular that's important is seat diaphragm. I did not know that Rimmer Brothers had these available. Again, it was actually my friend Tim who went to the VTR show with me. He's currently rebuilding his seats for his GT6 Mk1. And he's the one who informed me that Rimmer Brothers had reproduced these. And he is doing his seats now, and he said that these worked great for him. And so I went ahead and ordered a pair. But also, Rimmer Brothers has reproduced standard shocks for the ROTOFLEX cars. They've also reproduced the fuel hose for between the fuel filler cap and the fuel tank for early GT6 cars. So there are a number of items that Rimmer Brothers has produced recently that might be of interest to some of you. Hopefully my covering all of that is of some interest or use to some of you. I know this episode will not have a lot of spit and polish to it, largely because I don't have a lot of time just now. As I mentioned earlier, I'm working on the fuse box video, and I do have other things in the works. With how busy I've been lately, I'm not going to make any promises about how long it'll be before I get my next video posted, but hopefully sooner than later. I am looking for subscribers if you're interested in the kind of content I'm producing, and I'm very much interested in comments. So if you have something to contribute, and especially if you can help me to correct any errors that I make or anything like that, please chime in. It helps me, it helps us all out. So don't be shy about that. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and please take care.